The first and most important fact is the following. In a typical presidential election, 93% of the reporters who are based in Washington, D.C. vote Democratic. Not only is that liberal, that's more liberal than Berkeley, California. Now, journalists will tell you just because we vote liberal doesn't mean our reporting is liberal. That's a fair point, and I'll return to it in a moment. I'll show how the reporting itself, not just the personal views of the reporters, has a liberal bias. The second important fact about media bias involves how the bias is perpetrated. In general, the problem is not that the media report false things. Rather, it's that they fail to report some important true things. The third fact that you should know is that the bias of the media can actually be measured precisely and scientifically. To see this, you first need to understand the notion of a political quotient, or PQ. This is a scale that I've constructed that measures political views quantitatively. The scale basically goes from 0 to 100, where 0 is very conservative and 100 is very liberal. According to my analysis, the PQ of the average American voter is about 50. Next, you need to understand the notion of a slant quotient, or SQ. This is a scale that quantitatively measures the reporting of media outlets. For instance, according to my results, the slant quotient of the New York Times is 74. That number means that the reporting of the New York Times, although not far left, definitely tilts significantly leftward, 24 points left of center to be precise. That number is not just my opinion. I derived it from a statistical analysis that observes which think tanks the New York Times cites. As I found, when the New York Times cites think tanks, it cites liberal ones much more frequently than conservative ones. Finally, does the bias really have an effect? In other words, does the bias actually make people think and vote more liberally? The answer is yes. And in a nutshell, here's the effect. Despite the bias, which clearly influences people's views in the liberal direction, the average American still has a political quotient of 50. This is approximately the views of the average voter in a purple state, such as Iowa or Nevada. But if we could magically eliminate media bias, then according to my results, this would cause the average American to move about 20 or 25 points to the right. If that happened, America would think and vote not like the average purple state, but like a solid red, that is, conservative state. So if it weren't for media bias, how would America look and think politically? According to my results, approximately like Texas.
So last week, at almost exactly the same time, both Fox News and CNN broadcast reports on a problem Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney was having with mentioning the death of an ex-Navy SEAL in his speeches, making for a good comparison of supposedly straight news reports from both networks, beginning with the story from Fox News' special report that included this clip.
In recent days, Romney's related several personal stories aimed at softening up his image, including having met one of the former Navy SEALs killed in the terrorist attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi last month. Glenn Doherty's sister welcomed the attention, but his mother told the Boston TV station, quote, "He shouldn't make my son's death part of his political agenda." The Romney campaign said it would be dropped from his stump speech, but Romney also relates a story about a National Guard sniper killed in Afghanistan, whose widow told ABC News, quote, "When I would ask him, 'Chris, what do you need over there? What can I send you?' he said, 'I need a new president.'"
Now that seemed like a fairly balanced story, talking both about the mother of the ex-SEAL killed in Libya who didn't want Romney mentioning her son, as well as the widow of the sniper killed in Afghanistan who wanted Romney to use her husband's name because her husband wanted a new president. But when CNN reported the same story at almost the same time on the Situation Room, that report included a couple of important sentences the Fox News report left out, as you can see here.
At 3 events in the last 2 days, Romney has gotten choked up.
It touched me, obviously, as I recognized that this young man that I thought was so impressive had lost his life.
As he hailed the bravery of Navy SEAL Glenn Doherty, who died in last month's attack on the U.S. consulate in Libya.
And when they heard that the consulate was under attack, they went to the attack. They didn't hunker down and hide themselves. No, they went there. That's what Americans do.
But within an hour of Romney's last telling of the story, his aides confirmed to CNN the GOP nominee is dropping the anecdote after what the Navy SEAL's mother told Boston TV station WHDH. Doherty's mother said, "I don't trust Romney. He shouldn't make my son's death part of his political agenda. It's wrong to use these brave young men who wanted freedom for all to degrade Obama."
There's definitely more to that quote from Glenn Doherty's mother in the CNN version of the story than what Fox News showed its viewers, starting with the sentence that she doesn't trust Romney and ending with the one about using brave men who wanted freedom for all to degrade Obama, both of which somehow didn't make it into the Fox News version of the story. Yet, the CNN story didn't exhibit bias in the other direction by leaving out the part of the story unfavorable to President Obama, as you can see in the continuation of that clip here.
In a statement, a Romney campaign spokeswoman said Governor Romney was inspired by the memory of meeting Glenn Doherty and shared his story in that memory. But we respect the wishes of Mrs. Doherty. Romney started sharing these personal tales last Friday when he talked about the widow of a soldier who died in Afghanistan.
She said this, "Chris died for them to be able to protest."
Jane Horton told ABC News she was humbled by Romney's gesture, adding, "One of the last things my husband said to me before he was killed, when I would ask him, 'What do you need over there?' he said, 'I need a new president.'"
So CNN reported on the quote unfavorable to President Obama as well as the one unfavorable to Mitt Romney, while Fox News pretty much whitewashed the quote unfavorable to Romney, removing too much of the focus from the way Romney is politicizing the deaths of these Americans overseas.
This is